Yeah, ready? All right. Welcome back to Humans Anonymous, episode number 4. We've got with us in the studio today, B. Ballard. Say hi, B.
No.
No,
Okay.
no hi from B today.
No hi.
However, we do have a guest with us in today's episode. First of all, my name is Landon Ballard.
I'm Amaria Ballard.
My beautiful wife, and we are glad to be able to bring you episode 4 of Humans Anonymous. Isn't that right? This episode is actually going to be featuring me and my friend Aaron West, who's part of the Moi troupe that me and Amaria are part of. And we have been able to record an episode with him, and so we're glad to be able to bring that one with us today.
Yeah, so no me today. I'm not in this episode, but I'm pretty sure you guys will enjoy what Aaron has to say.
Yeah, I think it's going to be good. And then briefly, we just wanted to touch and thank all of you who have listened to the previous episodes. We are sorry that it's been such a long time, but life gets the best of us, and we are doing our best.
As you guys can see, I have cut my hair. It's been a while since our last episode, and we're sorry for that. We've had a lot going on over the past summer, so we appreciate you guys and appreciate the people who will be listening.
We hope that you guys have had an amazing summer, and without any further ado, B, can you say let's get to the episode? Say get to the episode.
She's shy.
Here we go. Aaron West, Ronnie West in the building.
Yes, I am.
For anybody who doesn't know of Run West Media, we have Aaron West with us in the studio today. Appreciate you coming out here, man.
No, thank you for having me. I've been excited to do this just because you podcasted with me, but over the phone, and we've probably only seen each other twice, and so it's nice to be here with you and actually have a full conversation that's not under the guise of like a presentation
or work.
Yeah, work. So
it's funny though, because I feel like every time we talk on the phone, it ends up being like an hour-long conversation.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's me. I'm a rambler, so feel free to stop me. I did that after you got off the call the other night that we had with the other two, and I think we got off the phone at like 10:30, so it was another hour of me still talking. So I think I've realized, and my wife will always say I am a bit of a rambler, and my sister and my mom both make fun of it, but I will try to keep my concise, but yet still fulfill the answer you're looking for.
You're good. I'm the same way. Obviously, you know that. So, let's talk about real quick. Run West Media. That's the company that you founded, started, and are running. Tell us a little bit about Run West Media.
Yeah, so it kind of... Obviously, I've done a lot of stuff over time, but I think for me, it really kicked off in my mind that I could run a company. So I was working for a company. We did a lot of window film installations, and when 2020 hit, there was like a big gap, or there was just this void of what do people do? Like, how do we connect to new customers? And so I started a window film podcast. Okay. And so that when I talked to different shops and different people who were in the industry, and as that kept going, I was like, oh, okay, this is something interesting. And so then I was like, let me turn this.
So real quick, windows, like marketing, advertisement window screen, what do we?
No, like the window tints that are on cars.
Oh, okay.
And like safety film that goes on buildings and stuff like that. And so it was kind of talking to people who would install it, or that would teach people how to install it, or like graphic designers that would do different things, kind of a part of it.
Gotcha.
And so that kind of sparked this thing in my head, and then ended up being, I think, 2021 now. I decided to file paperwork and kind of go through that whole process, and that's one of the things is I realized how easy it was to kind of create a business, and so I was like, and so now I want to share that with people, and I could sit here and do a 2-hour podcast on just starting your own business and kind of all the things you got to go through. And so I kind of I was doing social media for the company that I worked with as well, and so I kind of leveraged that into getting paid. And at that same time, my buddy who I was working with said he's like, I was at my barber, and his barber got this phone number. It's like, they're looking for website help, and I'm like, I've kind of worked with websites, I can see. and it just said Ray, and it had a number on it. And so I was like, I was on my lunch break, and so I was like, let me give this Ray a call. And so, and it was Ray Moffat of Moi, and so I was like, they needed a website built because they weren't getting exactly what they wanted from the person they were working with before, and kind of wanted to update it. Kind of in the similar fashion of it's 2020, they need to have a different reach and kind of get
our
people
website
in.
was looking pretty old.
And it's still around and it's still useful. And there's lots of people who have those types of stuff. And I'm not saying the one I created was perfect or is perfect, but I think it's a little more user friendly.
I think it was better for what we were looking for sure.
Yeah. And so I created that kind of, like I said, I've created a couple, I had like a blog originally. I did like, it was MidwestSportsBias.com.
I remember what blogging used to be huge.
Yeah, and it still is. It's honestly what I do now with the marketing agency I work with. We do blogs every week.
Gotcha.
But
I think, what was it, like maybe 6 or 8 years ago, blogging was like what podcasting is now.
Yeah, even it's like any type of voice thing, because if you can speak it. So there's lots of different technology. AI, I would almost say, like, it's kind of moved on, and it drastically does every day. And so then I just kind of kept working on different pieces of the craft. And when you start a business, it's one of those, you say yes to everything, and then you try to figure out, like, what do I do good so that I can kind of focus in and try to grow it.
Well, and I bet there's a good amount of a learning curve there too.
Yeah, but that goes with everything I kind of did in the past. I was in the Army, and I don't know if that's one of your future questions, but I was a psychological operations specialist, which essentially was marketing the U.S. to whichever country we were in. We had like loudspeaker packs, and it was kind of, I always want to say manipulation of a situation in a way that will benefit everyone. Like our main mission was resolve any issue without having a shot fired. So if you had a backpack that could pretend that you have helicopters and tanks coming, then people might be more willing to negotiate different things. So there's lots that's
an intense job.
It was definitely interesting and
like
crazy.
Of all of the jobs that you can do in the Army where you're not shooting at people, that's probably one of the edgiest.
Yeah, it's funny too, because if you've ever seen The Men Who Stare at Goats with like George Clooney, Ewan McGregor, that's the basis of the start of the PSYOP section of the Army.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I think some of that might have been a little over the top, but in essence, it's kind of that same type of stuff that kind of went on, and it's just trying to, but essentially breaking it down, it was marketing. Like you were marketing to people to try to get them to do something, but not to buy something. They were let's go over here, or let's do this type of thing. So, but yeah, so I was making YouTube videos for my fantasy football buddies, and kind of had all these little things that I was enjoying, and it's like, how do I put that all together into something? And I was like, marketing kind of has all of these pieces. I enjoyed podcasting, I enjoyed video editing, I enjoyed kind of the marketing and the SEO side of stuff, and was like, let me, instead of working at a warehouse, let me try to do something else that's going to change my life. And it certainly has, for sure. And it's one of those things I learn every day. I'm super excited about new challenges and things, because it's stuff that I enjoy doing versus cutting 60-pound safety film 70 feet or something like that. So it's definitely a change, but I'm so glad that I've found this path of mine right now. Yeah,
well, it's been really cool to get to know you and kind of see your passion. You're definitely one of the most consistently aggressive people when it comes to what you do. Like you're always doing something.
I feel like I'm never doing enough.
You're either shooting a video of your son on the drone, or you're doing a time lapse of this is what I did today, or it's just one thing after the and it's very like inspiring, especially coming from the place where I'm at right now, getting something started. It's definitely really cool to see you work.
And it's one of those things, like I said, it's every day I feel like I'm not doing enough, but I'm not getting burnt out, and it's having that balance is, I think, the key to anything. That's what I've been preaching to you for the last few weeks, is please don't get burnt out with this, because I like what you're doing. It's just some people, if they all of a sudden get into something, it's like, okay, I got to do this, this, and this, and not have that deadline in your brain that's saying I need to get on this, and then you stress yourself out. For me, it's every day. I have my notes of like my to-do list, and if I check off 5 of them, that's great because I'm making progress. But I think there's always more to do.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of touched on. I was about to ask, like, what's like something key for you when you get up in the morning and get going to keep that balance in your life? Is it that sitting? Because I know you've talked to me about that before. The sitting down. Let's figure out what are we doing today. Let's write it down. You've talked to me about that before. Is that kind of your main thing, or is there anything else that you do to kind of start the day on the right note?
It's funny.
Because that's the hardest for a lot of people, is to get up and start the day on the right note.
Oh, absolutely. I think having the to-do list and the checklist of things, and even I'll set that up the night before so I have like a plan for the day. There's lots of, I was just going to say, I started this week making sure I go to bed earlier so that I can wake up earlier, and I've started doing walks in the morning just to kind of feel kind of refreshed, and I eat right, and like I've changed my diet. So there's lots of other little or big things that you do, but I think for me that keeps me on the business path is definitely having that to-do list and checklist, but also trying to, like, I've got a big whiteboard of different ideas and things that I want to do, but having that plan, having a big picture plan, but realizing I need to break it down in order to get to that point. Because a lot of times people will have, I've got a 2 or 5 year plan of things I want to do, but it's like, okay, what are you going to do within the next week that's going to be a part of getting to that? And I think that's where most people falter. I have a big plan, but I don't actually break it down.
Just seeing that end goal.
Yeah, and it's like the journey versus the destination. You have to enjoy each day and the journey of doing all those little tasks versus just staring or just hoping for that end goal. And that is definitely what tripped me up for a long time, because I kept thinking like, I want this empire, I want to do this, and it's like, well, no, I need to figure out an email and kind of do that stuff. And
you need to take a step today, and that's kind of like something that we talk about, in moi. It's like you have to celebrate every step forward, not just that moment when you get to the place that you've been wanting to go. You need to celebrate every time that you take one step forward, because you could be taking one step back, but you're not. You're making progress. And like, I think that's like, for me at least, one of the big things to keep me going forward. Because like you said, if you're looking at that end goal all the time, it's really hard to be satisfied with today.
Yeah, and it's okay to take a step back. I think that's the big thing too, is to not negatively impact yourself if you need to take a break or I need to take a day off. Like for me, every day is a work day. Yeah. And my wife like looks forward to the weekend, where it's like, for me, there is no weekend, because it's just every day there's something new to do. Whether yesterday, Saturday, working on like editing the video that I was working on, and then today coming out here and doing this, and tomorrow I've got another podcast, and kind of but for me, these things are all things I want to do, and that's what doesn't make it feel like work. And for a long time in my head when I was younger, it was always, I don't want to wake up and go to work and go, ugh. Like as soon as I hit that point, I know I either need to move to a different job, or it's finding some other way to have that outlet. But I don't ever want to groan and be like, oh, I got to go to work, because then that's killing a little part of you every day. And we've all experienced that. Like even was my first job where I was excited to go work at McDonald's, but then like 3 months in, it's like, I did not want to work the drive-through on a Saturday morning again. Like that's just not what I want to be doing. And so you move and you change, and it's like every job has its upside. It's a fresh start, and it's something that you may enjoy for a little while, but as we grow, we all change.
And I think the key is, even if you're working at a job that you don't necessarily get excited to go, like if you wake up and you're not excited to go to work every day, but you still have to, then when you get off, you need to do something that excites you. You need to do something. And that's something that I've kind of been learning with all of this. I'm still working, 50 hours a week at my regular job. And I have been more excited and energized the last month that I've been recording podcasts, and I've been getting less sleep, having less time for myself, but I'm doing something that I actually give a crap about. And I'm putting what we genuinely believe is something good out into the world. And so that on top of me working 50 hours a week, you would think it's like going to kill me, but it's just made life better.
You always have to do something for yourself. Like, even if it's like you have 2 kids, I have a son, it's like you still have to participate in family life, and obviously we both enjoy being a dad and it's so much fun, but there's also times you need to have the time to yourself to inspire you to do something, because if you don't have that spark or that light, your family and kids are going to notice, like, why is dad sitting down over here looking glum? And you don't want to kind of have that impact them in that way, where you want, like, I want to inspire them, and I want them to have the spark in their eye, because they have it when I see them and of the things that they do. And so making sure that you take time for yourself so that you feel fulfilled, even if it's like 10 minutes of just quiet time, drinking a Pepsi in the corner.
That can be everything.
That's just what you want to do. And so and that's one thing, it's making sure that your partner has that too, of not making sure that they're not always the one taking care of everything. It's like, I want to make sure, all right, I'm taking the kids, you sit here and do what you need to do, and try to get your spark or whatever it is that you need, a rest, or
definitely.
It's
like the old saying, you can't pour from an empty glass.
Yeah, definitely. It's so true, because it's you can't give if you don't have the energy or just the excitement in life to be fulfilled, or to help others find, like, what we're doing now. It's great to have it. It's great to have the job, and sometimes it's having that, you might be doing a bad job, or not a bad job, but doing a job that you don't fully enjoy. But if you're making money to then go do the stuff that you want to do, like if you're able to travel and you have the opportunity, rather than just I'm just trying to have a big pile of money, you need to have those experiences.
Yeah.
And it's like when you're on your deathbed, are you going to remember what's in your bank account, or your experiences that you had with your family, or the places that you went to? And that's, for me, that's one of those things. Money is a tool, but it's not something that I need to hoard or keep on to.
Well, and like you were saying at the beginning before we started, like, you need to be doing it. As long as you're doing it, that's good. And I always go back to this. I heard there was a survey done of a bunch of older people who were close to death. And when they asked them if there was anything that they regretted, not one of them said something that they did do, but they said they regretted something that they didn't do.
Yeah.
So if you're just working, and you have never have time to do the things that you genuinely want to do, you're going to regret that.
Oh, for sure. I think it's just making sure that you use the time that you have, whether it's talking to your mom and telling her you love her, which I need to do. So Mom, I love you if you're watching this. But it's also just making sure that the time that having control of your time, which goes back to the business stuff. Like, for me, it's one of those, working and being away from the family, or having the freedom to kind of do what I want, spend time in my garden. Like, when my kid's in elementary school or middle school, whenever he ends up doing sports, like, being able to have the opportunity to coach him when it's like at 3 p.m., like when he has practice after school is done. I knew long before he existed that that's something I wanted to make sure I had that freedom. So the business stuff has always been kind of in my mind, as far as I wanted to own my time and have that freedom, but it's really hard to get to. I'm glad I can, at least I keep pushing you, because you're much younger. It's like, I'm 40, and I started my business at 38. So if we can get you at 28 to start yours, then that's a win for me. So I think just trying to be able to help people get to that point is something that it's a passion of mine. It's like, that's the motto of my business. It's run your passion to the next level. And it's, how can I help you figure a way out to get out of the rat race, or whatever that might be. So it's all, like I said, I'm a rambler, but it's all kind of comes back full circle.
Yeah, definitely. The key in all of it is just, and this is the whole point of everything that we do with Moi, making sure that you're healthy mentally, physically, emotionally. Mm-hmm. And in order to do that, you have to be fulfilling those passions. And so I feel like we've already gotten to kind of know where you're at a lot right now. Do you mind if we spin the wheel back a little bit?
Yeah,
take
go
it back
right
to
ahead.
your childhood?
Let me take a drink of water for this.
Go for it, man. So, I remember as a kid, I want to just talk about something fun real quick. I remember as a kid, the first video game I played, it was Super Mario on the Super Nintendo. It was either Super Nintendo or Nintendo 64. I think it was the Super Nintendo, though. I remember playing Mario, and I remember the first horror movie, which horror movies are my favorite genre right now. I remember the first horror movie I watched. I wasn't allowed to watch them for a long time because I was a weak child. But the first one was the first Conjuring when it first came out. And it's like, I feel like movies, video games, music, they have this weird way of sticking in our mind. Like, I remember songs from when I was 7 years old, the entire lyrics to them, but I don't remember what year we landed on Plymouth Rock. Like, I don't remember that. But I remember every song that I ever learned in high school. And so, like, do you have any of those, like, core bands maybe, or like a memory that was like, this was significant? It's something that had to do with like music, video games, or entertainment, in the entertainment realm.
Well, I'll date myself with the video game because the first one I remember playing, and I wish I could remember the name of it, it was the dots on the little hand.
Snake?
No, it was like the football, like, and like the dot would move.
You had to try to get the dot across the field or whatever.
Yeah, and it was on like its own little handheld thing, and I'm sure somebody out there, please comment what it is. But that was late '80s. But yeah, techno. Super Bowl was probably one that I remember playing a lot with my kids. With my friends. I had bought an original Nintendo system from my friend, but my dad made me return it. Like, he didn't want me playing video games, which it's funny. I sit there and I watch my kid watching Mario on TV, and I'm like, I'm okay with that, but it's like, if I can push off him playing video games as long as possible, that's good. I don't know if I'm going to be able to last it as long as my dad did, because I didn't have a system until like PlayStation 2. And
oh my goodness.
So I was definitely not the video game.
Dude, the PlayStation 2 though, what an amazing console, man. Probably the best.
Yeah, FIFA and whatever other games that I had played on there and then I ended up having like an Xbox. So music is definitely one of those things that I think for everybody, it's funny, one of my favorite movies, Kiefer Sutherland, it's like a documentary of a band that he was touring with. Music transports us emotionally. Kiefer Sutherland was talking about how music can transport anybody emotionally any place, whether it's a first kiss, you remember the song that was in the background, or a fight you might have had with your parents and like the music that you played to kind of go and rage out off. Yeah. For me, I think there's a few obvious. I grew up, my parents were, I don't want to say strict, we were just very conservative about a lot of things that we brought into the house, and somehow I got hooked on Phil Collins. Okay. And so like Susu Studio, it was one of those songs that I played nonstop. I had the Seal Kiss from a Rose cassette tape that I would play back and forth constantly. But then there was, I don't know what birthday it was for my dad, but my mom bought him the Jimi Hendrix Experience CD. And we just sat on the steps like in our house, like kind of just right here, and we all just listened. And I think my sister was maybe one or two, probably about B's age, and we just sat, probably older than that, because I think I was like 15 or 16, so she had to be 5 or 6.
Okay.
And it had such an impact on me because it was one of those times where I felt like I was like, okay, this is not knowing who my dad really was before I was aware of him, and it kind of gave me that perspective into his past of like, okay, this isn't my dad was kind of like a not a preacher more or less, but a deacon in the church, and so it was one of those where I saw a very different perspective of who he was older, and it was obviously you're as a son, you want to know and connect to who your dad was when they were younger at the same age, like how are you in this way?
Yeah.
And so it was really interesting because he used to go to concerts and see him in person, and then actually watch him kind of enjoy the moment of listening to Jimmy kind of struck me in a way, and I've been a fan of him ever since. It's one of those, I bought as many of the CDs that I could find after that, and whenever I needed to kind of calm or chill was Jimmy or Jack Johnson. But it was really interesting. But music has always been something, I think when you're 16 to 22, music is definitely one of those things that helps you emotionally get through different things and kind of it inspires you, whether it's I was going to a soccer game playing Eminem before just to kind of get pumped.
I also feel like at that age you're most connected to who you're listening to too.
Yeah, you feel their pain or their happiness about whatever's going through, but for me, since then, it's kind of I've detached from music. Like it's one of those you get older and it's like, this new music, these kids, what are they listening to? And so you kind of lose whatever it was that was new music coming out, and you kind of stick with whatever you enjoy. And I try to branch out. I try to go on iTunes and see new stuff. And there's good songs that are out there, but it's like I still revert back to the stuff that I like, and it's just kind of what I keep going back to. And it's like now I have, if I'm in a certain mood, then I'm going to listen to certain songs. If I need to calm, relax, it's ones that I don't know if your viewers know about. Nick Drake, it's very similar to like a David Gray.
Okay.
And like the Jack Johnson, Ben Harper, and all of them. Or if I need to go and listen to some underground rap, whether it's Dilated Peoples or People Under the Stairs and Jurassic 5. So there's lots of stuff that I kind of...
The deep cuts.
Oh, yeah. So it's definitely finding the music that kind of hits you and inspires you is important, but it's like, okay, now, like I said, I was going to have to go play a soccer game, or I'm going to work on this paper. It's like it's good to be in it, but also don't get deep into it where I'm depressed listening to Linkin Park like nonstop and just everybody sucks kind of deal. And so it's don't get sucked into to just kind of being in your ways. You're gonna have to come out of your room, come out of your shell a little bit, and it's make sure that it's music that kind of helps push you along, because now all I listen to is classical in the car. I just leave it on the classical station. It's like I want my kid to listen to it. Like hopefully he's going to be good at math because of
good for their brain, right?
Yeah, apparently. I don't know if it is for sure, but it's like it helps.
That's right here. Have you seen the Baby Einstein?
It's
like these videos with classical music playing in the background, and it'll be like somebody putting blocks on top of each other, or like turning on a toy that like it's just like stuff to entertain like their eyes, and like, but it's also classical music playing in the background, and B will stand there and just zoned in. It's crazy. And I'm like, I don't remember, because I'm the middle of 8 kids, and so I kind of helped raise the younger ones, and I'm like, I wish I would have known this trick when I was a sibling. I just flip that on and I don't have to babysit anymore.
Yeah. My sister's 10 years younger than me, so I definitely was the built-in babysitter, and we just had it on all the time. My dad, like every Saturday we'd listen to the classical music that was on. There was like a program that would play when we're going to church and whatnot. But yeah, now it's I try to impose that music on him, but all he wants to listen to is Taylor Swift and Harry Styles now. He's got my wife's ability to regurgitate any song and lyrics, so he's sitting there singing, and I'm like, you're 4 and you're singing along to all this stuff, and it's like, it's crazy.
Oh, that's good though. That's
good,
his
memory is on.
For him to be able to actually do that, that's crazy.
Yeah, and you'll see it soon enough. As soon as they get you can't put anything else on. That's the problem. At least it's not Coco Melon. So it's
yeah, that's one thing that I'm glad that we didn't we didn't get her into the Coco Melon, and she watches SpongeBob really.
Okay.
She's not a big TV person. She doesn't really like to watch TV, but if she does, it'll be SpongeBob for about 5 minutes, and then she'll be running around. But you mentioned a couple times, so your dad was a deacon. Did you go to church every Sunday? I grew up going to church. My parents have always been very involved in church, and so that's something that I kind of grew up doing. Obviously, especially in sobriety, my higher power, my religion, whatever you choose to call it, my relationship with my higher power is what I call it. It's very important to me. Is that something that stuck around for you? Is that something that you feel like kind of shaped your life a little bit, or was that something that you more pushed back against?
No, it absolutely shaped me. We went to church every Saturday. Our church was a little bit different,
Okay.
and so to say the least. And we had
What denomination was it?
it was Christian,
Okay.
but we celebrated Jewish holidays, and we had some, like, I wouldn't say Muslim, but we didn't eat pork. We didn't eat any unclean meats.
Gotcha.
And so there was lots of mixed signals growing up.
Different influences.
Well, sort of.
Gotcha.
And so, at least for me, of trying to understand everything that was going on, it was confusing because, like, the church changed their identity, like, when I was 16. And so that kind of shaped religious disagreements within the house. And so I had already kind of gotten to the point where I was like, I'm fine eating a pepperoni pizza if need be, or any of the things that the church changed into, but my parents had a much harder time struggling to adapt.
Yeah.
My mom grew up in the church. It was called the Worldwide Church of God. If you Google it, there's weird stories that you'll find on Wikipedia and whatnot. But for me, it was definitely a community of people that I had good connections with. It was something that I think the basis of the church was at least instilled in me, like the right and wrong, like the life that you should and try to live, to better other people and just kind of live in a way that's inspiring and kind of in a godly way.
Yeah.
I still had a lot of questions when I was a kid, and I'm always somebody who questions things and kind of feels I'm the know-it-all, and so I kind of pushed the boundaries on some of that stuff. But it's definitely one of those things that I feel has shaped me to the person I am, and I'm grateful for it. I have definitely kind of swayed in and out. I definitely have a book on my shelf. Am I Hindu? When I went to Iraq, I definitely talked to a lot of the locals about Islam and being Muslim, and just kind of always want to discover and learn different things. And for me, with the Christian faith, I never knew if it was for sure for me, because there's so many different facets of it and denominations, and every one of them tells you that this is the right one. I was like, how can you all be right? And
yeah.
So that was kind of my like, I don't know if this is for real. I feel, and all, like, I honestly feel God's within us all, as long as we try to do good and be the person that whoever higher power wants us to be, as long as it's not infringing on anybody else, but if it's bettering them, and as long as we're not, I'm not a pushy person. So it was one of those things for me. Christianity or any religion, the person has to accept it versus it being pushed on them.
Oh yeah.
And I think that was kind of the crux of the problem that I had with my parents towards the end of my high school career, was I shouldn't have to be forced into this. It should be something that I would think God wants to accept it whenever it's my time. Each one of us has our own religion, period. Like, no two people are going to agree on every single word that's in the Bible or the Quran, or the Torah. Like, it's just a matter of, like, we're all going to have our own religion, and we're being around people who have 80 to 90% similar belief system. And as long as we're being in a positive way, I think that's what helped. And I think people go to church for the community aspect of it, I think. And if you're in need of help, that's one place that you can go and you can feel the love, if it's correct love.
Right.
And I think that's what the church brought for me growing up, was this community of people that I felt like, okay, all of these people care about me, and that helped me grow. As I sit now, it's one of those things, I don't know if I can walk in and say how I feel in any church that's going to be like, okay, we're going to accept you in this way. When it's like, I have so many different viewpoints on things that it's hard to kind of find a specific congregation that I would feel like I could go in and be comfortable in. But I still feel spiritual. I still feel I follow like a sense of karma, as broad as that might be. But I think that's kind of always been in my head was I don't feel like I need to be accepted into God's club or whatever it might be. But as long as I'm fulfilling what I feel is doing good and correct in my mind, then I think I can at least go to whatever next side and feel comfortable and confident that I did what I thought was best. And regardless of if I'm going to be judged, like I think I'm judging myself every day.
Yeah.
And so I think that's another complex conversation, but I think that there is a baseline of like let's treat each other. It's not a Bambi line, but it is treat each other as if you'd want to be treated. I think that's as long as you're respectful to whoever, even if it's somebody you disagree with. And I think just the society as a whole right now, we don't want to listen, we just want to tell. And I think that's, granted we're on a podcast telling people stuff, but I think it's as long as they're willing to listen to what we have to say, and I'm going to be willing to listen to what other people say when I talk to them, and take it in versus trying to, as much as I love to talk, like to put it on them, I want to listen and hear your story. I'm a sponge for all kinds of topics. I want to know and learn from other people as much as I can, because that's never going to go away. I hope I'm on my deathbed like trying to learn something from somebody, because that's what fuels your brain to kind of keep going.
Yeah, it's what keeps you actually taking that step forward and actually, like we've been talking about, actually doing it, right? So the last thing that I want to do before we close, every time that I do a guest, I want to, for the viewers out there who maybe were in, the kind of position that you were talking about being in your 20s, 30s, for that person out there who's struggling, what is one thing that you would say to young Ronnie, young Aaron West, if you could go back and talk to him?
That's a good question. At least for me personally, it would be figure out your finances, but I know that that's an easy one to pick just because I know that would have alleviated a lot more stress that I went through. But I think like I don't have any regrets, so it's just know you're going to be okay. Like I think that's like tough times were going to come, but understand that you're strong enough to get through it, and lean on maybe more of your friends, because that's one thing now I've realized within the last few years is I have like the same group of high school buddies that we all kind of hung out in college, and then most of us had kids, and now we're like on a text stream, and it's funny because now we're like sharing like the stuff that I wish we would have shared back then, because we all kind of are dealing with it. And I know some of my buddies are struggling more than me, and they knew that I was struggling back then. So it's lean on your friends. Like, don't feel as if you need to be man enough to like try to have this persona that I can handle anything. There's being a guy it's hard, and it's not harder than whatever a woman would go through. But I think we put it on ourselves. We hold so much in. We try to carry a family. We try to carry whatever the job is putting on us. But give yourself the moment to let it out, to talk to a buddy, and just kind of let them know that I want to know what's going on with you, and try to be open and figure out and help them, because in the same breath they'll probably turn around and ask you the same question in order for you to get it out. And so that's the essence of what I would try to tell the younger version of myself. I think
use that support and you'll be okay, essentially.
Yeah, I think that's just be tough, but don't be hard on yourself. And
that's beautiful right there. Jeez, man. Be tough, but don't be hard on yourself.
Yeah.
I enjoyed this human interaction.
Yes.
I appreciate you coming through.
Thank you for having
Aaron
me.
West, everybody. Anything you want to plug?
Just if you check out my website, runwestmedia.com, moi.net, if you are looking for any type of mental health help or subjects or resources, go and check that out. But yeah, if you have a small business and you are looking for questions about starting your own, check out runwestmedia.com.
He's the man. Appreciate your time, man.
No problem. Thank you.
Of course.